the global impact of COVID-19 on the shipping industry. My guest is Raul Alfonso. He is Chief Commercial Officer with Port Tampa Bay. Hello, Raul.
Oh, great to be with you. It's a pleasure to chat with you. And I'm always up for talking about ports, shipping, and logistics and what we're doing.
So is everybody these days.
And this is where I was going to say, these days, we have to start by the difference of what the industry is going on, COVID situation, the crisis, and so on and so forth. So these days, we cannot read without learning more what's happening with closures of port, delays, high ocean freight rates, disgruntled retailers trying to get products to the consumers. And it's not a happy situation. And I like to think that as a port, we are here to serve our community, to serve the region, and thinking about those consumers that are us, our families. We are buying products. We are now living and working at home, studying at home. Some of our children are. So it's a difficult situation, and everyone is ready to live, to go back to normality. And that's not the case. That's not the case because
the expectation,
sales are high, and we talk to our retailer friends, the BCOs that use our services at the port, and they feel the frustration of not being able to get the products that they have ordered. Their salespeople are selling, we're waiting, and sometimes it's 30, 40 days or more. And then you go back to, it hasn't only been the manufacturing sector, international ports, delays at the major gateways that are here, and unbelievable to hear of largest port, LA Long Beach, yesterday, 44 ships at anchor, averaging over 7 days each. Unheard of. If you calculate that each of these vessels will discharge 5,000 plus containers, that's over 200,000 containers of goods for the U.S. market sitting at the waters. And it's a complicated domino effect that it hits not only the supply chains, and then you have equipment shortage. The rates that you're hearing, it's unbelievable that shippers are paying 3-4 times the normal levels. $20,000 for a container from Shanghai to the West Coast.
And even then, the container's not getting there on time. It's sitting on a ship. So you're paying a lot more money for a lot less service. And it does seem like this congestion isn't just at the ports, it's well inland too. I mean, what are you seeing like at inland rail terminals? Where is the culprit here? It's hard to pin down where the congestion even begins. Do you have a view on that?
Yes, I do. And we talk about COVID, what we have been experiencing the last 18 months and the effects of it. We buying more, but it goes before that. If you remember 2004, 2005, the shipping industry was ordering the larger vessels that were in order, that were coming in. Then came the global economic crisis that hit the shipping industry, many carriers going out of business, consolidation of the container industry. Now, what do we have? The managing capacity as those larger vessels were coming in, scrapping was going on, and there were years that you saw vessels of 4,000, 5,000 TEU being scrapped. So there was a tightening of that capacity, and that is not helping us now, because now there are no alternative ways. Now it's mostly use the largest vessels, go to the larger ports, and the congestion backlogs are there. And so how do we come out of that? It's not a simple answer.
Okay. Let's hear some ideas from you.
From us, Port Tampa Bay, we are not a large port in the container business. We are growing substantially.
But before we talk about Port Tampa Bay specifically, I want to get a broader view from you as to just how shippers are generally approaching this. Are there alternatives for them on a nationwide basis? And they've got to figure out a way to get product to market, especially with the peak holiday season coming up. So what strategies do you think that shippers are employing in a larger
Imagine
sense.
talking to our friends, shippers that we serve,
Mhm.
and they feel that frustration that they have contracted for certain capacity, a certain high level of ocean freight rates. At times, those capacity allocation are not being met, is changing, so they have to pay more. So it's a difficult situation that they are not really immediate answers. And what we are looking for from our perspective to help in our region, we cannot help nationwide, but in our region, Bob, is look at the smaller ports, alternatives that can facilitate bringing certain ships, distribution of the cargo and logistics to destinations.
Mhm.
I was listening this morning, and Walter Chemisis, he mentioned, he says, shippers cannot continue to do the same thing all over and over again and expect a different scenario. He was saying shippers need to be contrarians. They have to go against the trend sometimes. Once again, taking us back to Port Tampa Bay, we have been telling the industry in our region, reroute your thinking.
Okay, but if you do that, if you reroute your thinking, if you want to go to smaller ports, you've got to find smaller ships. Are carriers open to this idea? I mean, they've relied so heavily on these 20,000 TEU ships up to this point. The ships get bigger all the time. How can you convince carriers to shift to the smaller ships that have more ability to call the smaller ports?
Yes. We and Ports America, as you know, they are the largest terminal operator in the US. They are our terminal operators here. We are working and discussing these alternatives with carriers.
And are they listening to you?
Are they? Oh, yes. Are they willing to? Absolutely. Is there a potential? We believe so. We just conducted a survey of major retailers in the region, and we came up with the potential of over 1,000 FEU, full container loads a week, that they could divert here to Port Tampa Bay. Imagine that, the need that these shippers are facing these days.
If the ships are available for that purpose, does that require chartering smaller ships? Finding these smaller ships that have been put in other services, were knocked out of regular service by the big ships, you got to bring that tonnage back.
Exactly. It's very difficult.
And we hear about some shippers that are doing that, and they're doing it successfully both on the West Coast and the East Coast. But the question is, at what point, if too many shippers, if many shippers seek that option, do you not then begin to get the same congestion at the smaller ports that you got at the bigger ones?
Of course, absolutely. It has to be manageable, but having the infrastructure, having the services, and being close to distribution centers is very important. These days, the major gateways, be it on the West Coast, on the Northeast, or in the Southeast, in our case, it's Savannah, they serve markets that are hundreds, if not thousands of miles away. So coming closer to the actual consumers, where there are distribution centers that are in operation by these retailers, that's key of that. Now, can the ocean carriers put a package that can find the vessels that can serve this market? Let's hope so. Invaluable these days, to find the viability.
And equally important for the inland carrier providers, for the rails and the trucks and the inland terminals to participate in the same kind of thing. I mean, they must also step up to encourage the use of alternative gateways.
When you talk getting to a port, then having the chassis equipment to be able to serve the accounts, being able to then turn that box back to the port, the equipment back. We've had months that we have been working with our users, our customers here, to facilitate the chassis equipment allocation. We increased chassis allocation from about 150 on the fleet to over 500, and we did it very quickly. So we've been able to escalate. We have grown 46% over the last 9 months. So we are doing some good things, and we believe that the carriers and our partners and the customers, especially the customers, are requesting that additional capacity into ports like Port Tampa Bay.
Okay. Well, listen, Raul Alfonso, I want to thank you so much for giving us the big picture of what's going on in the world of shipping as a result of this. But let's turn now to a more specific talk about Port Tampa Bay. A lot of people don't know what Port Tampa Bay is all about. How long has it been around, and how long, and what's its niche, and what are its strengths and services?
Yes, Port Tampa Bay, we are so proud of what this port has accomplished. It's Florida's largest port in land, with over 3,000 acres that we own and do not operate. We are a landlord port, and the largest by tonnage. We are the energy hub for Central Florida, for petroleum products, fuel, gas, for aggregates, fertilizers, cement, and so on. Very strong for the building and construction industries with steel products and lumber. So this port has the luxury of having the land to grow and being in a centralized position where we can serve the Florida market and beyond. So about 8 years ago, we decided to move into the great opportunity to also provide services for consumer products. And this is a key, because if you know the Florida market, which is a huge consumer market, and is one of the fastest growing in the nation. Now, Florida is the third most populated state. You hear there are over 1,000 people moving into Florida each day. That's a lot of new homes, a lot of refurbishing of homes, building and construction industries are very strong. So we are growing alongside Florida's future, which is very important. Consumer products coming to Port Tampa Bay, the I-4 corridor is the mecca for distribution for Florida. We have over 400 million square feet of distribution between our port in Tampa and Orlando within an hour's drive. So the efficiencies that those retailers can generate are substantial. Having a driver doing 3-4 round trips per day, significant. The savings versus having to drive in to this market from port far away, like 400 miles away. The savings are over $800 per container. So economically, there is a lot of efficiencies operationally that it just makes sense. And like I mentioned before, we had been telling the industry to reroute your thinking, reroute your supply chain brain, I wanted to say. And what we were trying to say is, don't follow the crowd. Look at the benefits, look at your operations and see how we can help you grow in the largest consumer market in the Southeast US. Well, it's a simple plan. Our strategic plan for the consumer products for containers is based on a supply chain strategy.
Well, there is certainly an incentive for shippers today to look at such alternatives, given the congestion that we're seeing at the traditionally large, the mega ports. So listen, Raul Alfonso, of Port Tampa Bay, I want to thank you very much for, again, joining me to talk about the large problem of congestion and the alternatives that exist, as well as something about Port Tampa Bay itself. Thank you very much for being with me today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.